On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, Tesla held its 2024 annual shareholder meeting, and we got some big news out of it, including when we can expect to see Autopilot Hardware 5 roll out, as well as when the Cybertruck Foundation Series will be ending and when general production will be starting. Plus, a fun new accessory for the Model Y hits the online Tesla shop, and more. What's happening, friends? Ryan McCaffrey joining you here back home in San Francisco, California for episode 463 of Ride the Lightning. It's your weekly Tesla unofficial podcast, releasing on June 16th, 2024. Well, I'm back from Los Angeles, had a good time, saw a lot of great video games, played a lot of great video games, had a lot of great video games unveiled for the first time. We had our really fun Super Bowl week for the video game world, and had a good time. Also, I was pretty strictly in downtown Los Angeles, and keeping count, I saw 4 Cybertrucks in that time, which was cool to see, as well as, just for a little extra context, there was 1 Lamborghini, there were a bunch of Bentleys, and a whole bunch of the new Corvette. They really love the new Corvette down there in LA, but had a really good time. Happy to be back home, though. I've got Daisy the Boxer to my left, snuggled up on the couch. And yeah, here we go. It's going to be a big episode this week. The shareholder meeting, there is a lot to cover, and I want to start right here. I don't even want to do a build-up to it, and I just want to start with the biggest thing, in my humble opinion, that came out of this, and it's what all of you have been waiting for, what I've been waiting for. You know, normally I take you pretty chronologically through a piece of news from the Tesla event and just kind of build up and go, but not this time. I'm cutting out everything and I'm starting right here. I'm breaking tradition because I know so many of you want to hear this and I don't want you to have to wait another moment to get it. And I want to say, as I tee up this clip, shout out to this shareholder who was in attendance for asking the question everyone wanted to know the answer to during the Q&A portion. And kudos to Elon Musk for not even flinching, not dodging the question, just giving a very matter-of-fact, straightforward answer. Here you go.
My question was in regards to the Foundation Series. Do you guys have a certain number that you are planning on making, or a timeline of when the non-Foundation Series are going to come out?
Yeah, we'll start making we'll end the Foundation Series actually pretty soon. And the non-Foundation Series sometime next quarter.
So there you go, the news we've all been waiting for. Turns out my prediction was off, but really not by much. Elon said next quarter, meaning Q3, and that was, we don't really know actually if that was for producing them, but maybe not delivering them, or both. Now, while it's possible that the first general production trucks could be delivered by September 30th, I think it's more likely that those first regular production deliveries will happen in Q4, with orders for those trucks being placed in Q3. And, you know, in my prediction here, I've been holding strong to for a while, I've been saying end of year, November, December. So pretty close, I think it's going to end up being. We'll see. But good news, now we know, we're not left guessing anymore. Speaking personally about my Cybertruck situation, I have admitted here before, and I admit to myself, I started my Cybertruck savings plan too late. Too late, and I have lamented that, but there's nothing I can do about it now. It was a 12-month plan, still is. It's a 12-month plan to save up a sufficient down payment so that my monthly payment will be manageable for me. Now, it's mid-June. I am halfway through that 12-month plan right now, so I'm not nearly ready yet. However, once general production orders open, when I make my next move will depend on what the delivery estimates are for that first wave of general production trucks. If it's a 2 to 3 month wait from the time you order to the time you take delivery, meaning let's say you order in, we'll assume the worst, late Q3, So say around my birthday in late September, that would be an awesome birthday present, would be to actually place my order for a general production Cybertruck. That might mean then that the delivery estimates for those first general production trucks could end up being November, December, which would be right about what I had planned, because I can still keep saving after I've placed the order, since I don't have to actually pay for it until it's time to take delivery. So we shall see how this pans out, but now we all have a good idea of when the line will reset, right? Everybody's going to go back to where they were in line if you didn't place an order for Foundation Series, and they'll start going through the queue again, start going through the reservation list again. You know, I couldn't help but wonder, my immediate reaction here was, oh, well, I always appreciate that Elon just gives an honest answer. 95 or higher % of other companies, the CEO would not have answered that question. It would have been just like a generic, oh, well, stay tuned, we'll have announcements to make soon, because it would have to go through 30 people and approvals and what's our exact messaging here. But no, with Elon, you will get an honest answer if he feels like answering the question. And here, you could hear there was just no hesitation. He was asked the question and he had no problem answering it honestly and completely there, which I do appreciate Elon for. And so I do wonder, did his honesty maybe cost him some Foundation Series sales from folks out there who may have received their Foundation Series invite but might now choose to wait for their turn to come up in general production instead? Maybe, maybe not. And really, the more I think about it, I think it's more maybe not, because the take rate is going to be much higher on general production. So the people that are getting invited now, who, by the way, the Foundation list, or at least the Foundation invites are going out to 2021 reservation holders. So we went all the way through 2020, the last bit of 2019, the original reservation holders, all through 2020, and we're into 2021 for Foundation Series invites now. But everybody that didn't buy a Foundation Series truck will go back to where they were in line, and will have to wait a good little bit longer for their shot at the MSRP priced general production Cybertruck. So, if the take rate was, it's tough to do anything but make an educated guess, but it seemed like, based on the rate that Tesla was moving through the reservation queue, that the take rate on Foundation Series was maybe 5%, which makes sense, right? And they were asking six figures. They were asking $100,000 minimum to get a Foundation Series, when anybody that placed the reservation for the truck right away was expecting to pay $70 at the most. So low take rate on Foundation Series, which I'm sure Tesla knew was going to be the case, but they sold as many of those as they could and are continuing to sell as many of those as they could. But once MSRP is available, $80,000 trucks, that for some customers, they're going to qualify for that point of sale federal tax credit to bring that down to $72,500 off the lot. The take rate's going to be much, much higher. I don't know what that percentage is. Let's say it's 30%. And I don't know if that's too low or about, but just educated ballpark guess, let's say it's 30%, because it's still $80,000 is more than the 70 or 50, 50 or 60 that people were expecting to pay if they reserved a dual motor originally or a tri-motor. But if it's even 30%, just for the thought exercise here, that's 6 times higher than the 5% take rate on the Foundation Series, meaning there are just going to be a lot more people queuing up to get their truck. And yes, production is ramping up too, which we're going to hear more about in the shareholder meeting here in a little bit, but it's still going to mean a longer wait. It's going to take a lot longer to get through the reservation list in general production, is my point, than it did with the Foundation Series. All right, Before I get to all the news and topics and clips and highlights and analysis I have from the rest of the shareholder meeting, I have a couple of things to mention first. The first of those being this, a fun new accessory, and dare I say a very useful new accessory has popped up on the online Tesla shop this week. It's an inflatable mattress for the Model Y. It's custom fit for the back with the seats folded down, the second row folded down, and no surprise, it sold out very quickly, but it will no doubt restock and hopefully soon, since we're now into the summer and the camping season for a lot of people. The price on it is in my opinion, a fairly reasonable $225, and here's the product description from the online Tesla shop. Car camping made comfortable. Designed to fit snugly across the folded rear seats and trunk of Model Y, the Model Y Air mattress gives you extra comfort while you doze off for an afternoon nap or a night away. Its 3-inch high-density foam filling creates a soft landing pad, and its waterproof polyester exterior is durable and smooth to the touch. The mattress quickly inflates with the included air pump and can be deflated and stowed in the vehicle's rear well. So there you go. It comes, as you heard, with an air pump. It comes with a carry bag and 2 repair patches as well in case anything were to puncture it. I do think this is one worth keeping an eye out for the restock on for all of you Model Y owners. Hey, I hope all of you who are very kindly and generously supporting the podcast on Patreon at that $10 per month tier enjoyed this week's Lightning Round mini episode. It was number 100, so a little mini milestone here. I've done 100 of these Lightning Round mini episodes specifically for those very generous folks on Patreon backing me at that $10 per month tier or higher. And I went a little meta with this one. This one was about my 10 favorite Lightning Round mini episodes out of those first 100. I was trying to think of it as kind of a lightning round starter guide because people join the Patreon all the time. And, you could just binge all 100 and hey, go for it. That's my way of saying thank you that all 100 of those and counting are there for you. But this one, I just went through my 10 favorites. Maybe you listened to them, maybe you didn't, but I told some kind of stories about each one and what have you. So check that out on my Patreon page if you're backing me already. And if you're not, and if you enjoy this podcast and hopefully you get to the end of this episode and you go, boy, thank you, Ryan. I got a lot out of that recap and analysis you did of the shareholder meeting. I would love to support you on Patreon. To do that, you go to my Patreon page located at patreon.com/Tesla podcast, and you choose which tier you'd like to support me at. There's the base tier, which is $5 a month, and that'll get you early access to each week's episode. Then above that is the most popular tier, the $10 per month tier, that gets you the early access each week and gets you those 100 and counting Lightning Round mini episodes, and it goes up from there. You can find out more on the Patreon page, again, found at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. If you do the annual pledge, I say thank you for doing that by giving you a 10% discount on that annual pledge. And there is a 7-day free trial if you just like to try it out, and it's specifically for that $10 per month tier. That's the 7-day free trial one. So you can sign up for that without actually committing any money. But check it all out at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. I would be humbled and grateful if you would take a look at that and consider supporting what I'm doing here. Now, speaking of Patreon, real quick, something I forgot while I was in LA last week was that it was my Patreon anniversary. I've now been on Patreon for 8 years, and the 9-year anniversary of the podcast is coming up very, very soon. So just as a little celebration slash thank you, I wanted to invite anybody who joins the Patreon at that $10 tier this month, in the month of June. I will invite you to the next 3 monthly Zoom Hangouts, which are normally reserved for the maximum plaid and higher tiers. So again, if that's of interest to you, you can head on over to the Patreon page. And as I celebrate 8 years on Patreon, I want to say a huge thanks to all of you who have supported me on Patreon, whether you are doing so now or have done so in the past. I mean this sincerely. I truly would not be able to continue to do this podcast every single week without your kind and generous support. Okay, let's dig in now. Tesla's 2024 annual shareholder meeting. Let's get right to what was arguably the biggest item on the agenda coming into this shareholder meeting. That, of course, being Elon Musk's CEO pay package, which, as all of you know by now, had been approved by shareholders back in 2018, was lambasted pretty much by everyone outside of Tesla circles at the time in 2018 as being something completely impossible and thus utterly ridiculous, only for Elon and the company to go and achieve every single huge goal set out in it before a Delaware judge struck it down earlier this year. So at this shareholder meeting, it went back on the shareholder ballot. And here is Tesla's general counsel to talk us through the results.
Based on the proxies that we have received and the votes submitted at this meeting, I'd like to announce the results on a preliminary basis. With respect to the 7 stockholder proposals, our stockholders have approved the recommendations of the Tesla board on all of them except for Proposal 6 regarding director terms and Proposal 7 regarding simple majority voting. Now moving on to the 5 Tesla proposals. First, our stockholders have approved the election of our 2 Class 2 directors, James Murdoch and Kimball Musk, to serve for a term of 3 years and until their respective successors are duly elected and qualified. Second, our stockholders have approved executive compensation on a non-binding advisory basis. Third, our stockholders have approved the ratification of appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP as Tesla's independent registered public accounting firm for the 2024 fiscal year. Fourth, our stockholders have approved the redomestication of Tesla from Delaware to Texas. Fifth and finally, our stockholders have approved the ratification of the 100% performance-based stock option award to Elon Musk that was approved by stockholders in 2018.
So Kimball Musk will remain on the board, Tesla will reincorporate in Texas, and Elon Musk, as I had expected, got his pay package reinstated by shareholders. And if you're curious about Proposals 6 and 7 from shareholders that were approved, Proposal 6 was about the reduction of director terms to 1 year, if properly presented. That's how it was worded. And Proposal 7 was for the simple majority voting provisions in the governing documents, if properly presented. And I have to say, that's the first time that I can remember any shareholder proposal passing in a while, and maybe ever. I'm not confident in enough in that to definitely say that, but it's definitely been a while since any of the shareholder proposals have passed from my memory. So hopefully those 2 shareholder proposals turn out to be net positives for the company and for its shareholders. And on all of these proposals, be they from Tesla or from shareholders, the online voting closed the night before, and right after it did, that night, Elon posted an internal chart on his X account that his pay package had appeared to pass. The chart showed the votes on the y-axis and the days on the x-axis, and there was never a single moment in time where the against votes were more than the for votes. They got closer for a little while, but this was clearly passing all the way, even without the big surge of for votes that appears to have been the results of a grassroots effort by retail shareholders in the last days. The final tally, if you're curious, Tesla released the number, was 73% voting for that CEO compensation package. So now that that saga is put to bed, regardless of how you feel about it and regardless of how you voted, it's done. It's now Elon's job, as it always has been, but it is now upon Elon to go out and make the shareholders more money by increasing the value of the company, which of course will be done by creating more great products and innovating on existing ones. Now, for what it's worth, as you're going to hear a lot more of in just a moment, Elon seemed to be in quite the excellent mood at this meeting, which I suppose won't come as any surprise, since really, I think any of us would probably be floating on cloud nine if we had just gotten a 10-figure pay package approved by the people that we work for. But you really can sense a lot of enthusiasm from him in this meeting throughout, and I would say specifically about Optimus, which you will hear more about in a little bit. But first, the Patreon poll for this week, I'll give you the results. I had asked you when I put the poll up at the beginning of the week, well ahead of the shareholder meeting, simple question, do you think Elon Musk's pay package will be approved by shareholders this week, regardless of how you voted or how you feel about it? 71% of you said yes, so this Ride the Lightning audience sample matched up almost exactly with the overall shareholder vote. 71% here versus 73% of overall shareholders. So thank you to, this might be a record number of people that voted. Thank you to everybody that came on over and voted. A reminder, I think I've been forgetting to mention this each week lately, but the Patreon poll, anybody can vote in. You don't have to be backing me on Patreon. All you got to do is stop by once a week to patreon.com/Tesla podcast, and the poll is open to everybody each and every single week. I typically put them up on Tuesday nights. I think I put this one up on Monday. I don't remember. Anyway, I typically put the poll up on Tuesday evenings. All right, next up, let's get started with Elon's remarks. This is a very long speech at 12 minutes, but I think it's worth listening to. And I promise I am still cutting a lot of fat out from this shareholder meeting. The entire thing was 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and I promise you this entire podcast will be roughly half, maybe a little bit more than half of that. So this 12-minute clip is by far the longest clip I'm going to play. So take a listen to this, and then I will give you my comments on it afterwards. Take a listen.
Hey guys. Welcome to the Tesla shareholder meeting. And I just want to start off by saying, hot damn, I love you guys. Yeah. We have the most awesome shareholder base. I mean, it's just incredible. Any public company, it's incredible. Wow. We've got a great sort of shareholder meeting here to recap the achievements of the company and tell you about where we're going. And it's, I think it's incredible. I think we're not just opening a new chapter for Tesla, we're starting a new book. Okay. So those of you who have been following Tesla closely understand, like you get it, you know? So like, the important thing is you get it. I mean, it's where things are going, I think, is just going to be absolutely mind-blowing. We're obviously making great progress in solving the sustainable energy problem, with electric vehicles, with stationary storage, with solar, and then I think in terms of the value of the company, autonomy is just such a mind-blowing thing that, like I said, you guys understand, but I think most of the world does not yet understand. So, in talking to a lot of the sort of the big institutional investors, when they're often in like New York and they don't drive cars, so I'll be like, have you driven our car? Or have you tried self-driving? The version 12.3, and they're like, oh no, okay. Well, you should try it. That would be a good thing to do. And if you just plot the points on the curve of how well autonomy is progressing, and just believe the curve, it's headed towards unsupervised full self-driving very quickly at an exponential pace. If you just, yeah, it's. I mean, yeah. So. It's really as simple as that. And in fact, I'd invite you to just do it personally. Just say, okay, with each release, how many miles do you drive before you have to intervene? It's like literally that simple. With each release, you'll see there's a big improvement, and it looks like an exponential. So, and it's very clear that will actually go to the point where it is actually far safer than a person driving the car. And I have some insight into the next releases, because we've got basically for every release that's on the road, we kind of see what the next generation release is and a little bit about the release after that. So we have some insight into where it's going, and it's really amazing. No question whatsoever that will far exceed human safety. Yeah, no question. So, and I think I have mentioned this, but like sometimes it's like helpful to sort of reiterate and connect some of the dots, because sometimes people wonder, well, how do you go from this big fleet to actually monetizing the fleet in an autonomous situation? And it's actually a combination of it's like Airbnb and Uber to some degree. So there'll be some cars that Tesla owns itself, and it's kind of like an Uber fashion. But then for the fleet that is owned by our customers, it will be like an Airbnb thing. You can add or subtract your car to the fleet whenever you want. So you can say, I'm going away for a week. At just one tap on your Tesla app, your car gets added to the fleet, and it just makes money for you while you're gone. Yeah. So you can say you can add it to the fleet for a few hours, for a few days, for a few weeks. Whenever you want it back, you can say come back, and the car will come right back. And I'm highly confident that it will far exceed the value, the revenue made by the owner of the car will far exceed the actual monthly payment. And then Tesla will obviously take a rev share on that, but most of the money will go to the owner of the car. And this is actually going to work. This is what will happen. So mark my words. This is simply a matter of time. Now, admittedly, I'm a little optimistic sometimes. So I don't have complete lack of self-awareness. But if I wasn't optimistic, this wouldn't exist. This factory wouldn't exist. That's what my brother, who's awesome, he's here, just got reelected. No, sorry, this thing's... So, it's like a little anecdote. When we were kids in school, my brother would tell me the wrong time for the bus so that I wouldn't miss the bus. And then I'd be upset with him, like, why'd you tell me the bus was going to come earlier than it was? And he's like, well, because otherwise you'd be late for the bus. This is an actual thing that would happen. So I guess I've been sort of pathologically optimistic from birth. But that's the reason all this stuff is happening anyway. It's like I got to be somewhat pathologically optimistic. But I do deliver in the end. That's the important thing. So, yeah, and it's really just going to be something else. I mentioned this before, but like for ARC Invest, I'd recommend reading the ARC Invest analysis. That's the most accurate. There may be more accurate ones, but the most accurate sort of analysis of the potential of autonomy. The most accurate that I'm aware of is Kathy Wood's ARC Invest. And if I recall correctly, they predicted somewhere over a $5 trillion valuation for Tesla just based on vehicle autonomy, not counting Optimus. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. So I think just based on vehicle autonomy, we can 10x, more than 10x the value of the company. I believe that's what will happen. Hey, no, it's just what do you know? It's 4:20 p.m. I just noticed that. So I think that's actually, I think that's pretty accurate. But it actually gets way crazier when you think about the Optimus robot, which is really a humanoid robot that is intended to, be able to do anything you want it to do, to be, your companion. It can be at your house. It can sort of babysit your kids. It could teach them, be a teacher. It can do factory stuff. I think that the ultimate ratio of, you say, how many super useful humanoid helper droids do you want? Like, who doesn't want a C-3PO? But a C-3PO plus R2-D2 plus, plus. It would be pretty awesome. I think everyone in the world is going to want one, like literally everyone. And then there will be obviously robots in industry making stuff, and so I think the ratio of humanoid robots to humans will probably be at least 2 to 1, something like that. 1 to 1 for sure. So which means like somewhere on the order of 10 billion humanoid robots, maybe 20 or 30, and so then it's like, okay, well, let's say. You kind of make, let's say the build rate is, I think the build rate will be probably something ultimately like 1 billion a year, humanoid robots, like actually. And if Tesla just has a 10% share of that, and it might be a lot more than 10%, and there's, we make like 100 million Optimus units a year. For reference, the auto industry is roughly 100 million vehicles per year. So that, sort of similar ballpark, at least within an order of magnitude. And I think we could make one for a cost of maybe at really high scale of about $10,000. It's smaller. It'll be less expensive than a car. So, and I think if you sell for $20,000 or something, this is at large scale volume. Tesla would basically make about $1 trillion of profit a year from that. So, yeah. If the price earnings multiple is, say, 20 or 25, something like that, that would mean a $20 trillion market cap from Optimus alone. And probably 5 to 10 from autonomous vehicles. So, I think it's actually conceivable, it's within the realm of possibility for Tesla to achieve a valuation 10 times that of the most valuable company today. So when I say this is like we're starting a new book, I mean, it's going to be the best book. Next level. Next level. No, we need to make sure these robots are nice to us, and, that's very important. Yeah. So anyway, so with that, let me get into the presentation.
First of all, he's absolutely right about Tesla having the most awesome shareholders. There simply isn't another company, not Apple, not Microsoft, not Disney, not Google, that has the same kind of engaged, knowledgeable, and enthusiastic shareholders. And I think that's for two reasons. One is Tesla's company mission. A lot of people, myself included, are as emotionally invested as they are financially invested in wanting Tesla to succeed in its mission to transition the world to sustainable energy. So I think that's probably the big one. Number two, the other reason that I would give is it's the products. Elon has often talked about how he thinks Tesla has the most exciting product roadmap of any company in the world, and I completely agree with him. I mean, look what kind of excitement the Model S has created many times, from the original version up to the Plaid most recently. The Model 3, the excitement from that. Remember back when the Model 3 was first unveiled on March 31st, 2016, and there were 150,000 reservations in the first hours, and there ended up being 400,000 reservations, which back then, the reservations were $1,000, not the $100 sort of, I'll just do this on a whim reservation of the Cybertruck. It's not to speak ill of the Cybertruck, but it was a much more serious buy-in on the Model 3 reservations, and the car industry had never seen anything like that. That level of excitement that the Model 3 generated, and that car, of course, opened the door for the first time ever to a true high-volume production EV. And then the excitement of the Model Y becoming the best-selling car in the world, which we're going to hear more about on this shareholder meeting. And then, of course, most recently, the Cybertruck, which is quite simply, love it or hate it, the most exciting, talked-about vehicle from any car company at any price point. Yes, I am including supercars here. Cybertruck is him, as the kids say. So I don't at all think that Elon's just pandering to the crowd when he says that. I really do think that Tesla shareholders are a unique and awesome breed of people. Second comment I have on Elon's opening statement there, I found his comment about Tesla starting not just a new chapter, but a new book really, really fascinating. Did he say that because he felt like that he was starting a new book now that he got his pay package and moving into this new era? I mean, it probably wasn't just that, but he'd be forgiven if that's part of it for him. Because he did paint a picture of what this new book could look like, and that book would almost certainly have Optimus on the cover of the book. Now, he didn't really mention the Model 2.5 or the Cybercab in this entire shareholder meeting, which would also be big parts of that next book. So I just have one thing here. Elon, if you're listening, I know he's not, but Elon, can the next gen Roadster please be part of this second book as well? It was supposed to be part of the first book, and we still haven't seen the car come anywhere close to production. So fingers crossed on that one. But I also thought, by the way, that his self-awareness, but also at the same time his self-confidence, which that was my interpretation of it. I did not interpret that as ego. I thought it was self-confidence. Both self-awareness, self-confidence on display when he first said, with a laugh, but a lot of sincerity, he said, admittedly, I'm a little bit optimistic at times. And then he followed that up with, if I wasn't optimistic, this factory wouldn't exist. And then he said, I do deliver in the end. That's the important thing. And guess what? He's absolutely right on all counts there. I think we're probably, at least I'll speak for myself, I am certainly guilty at this point in time of taking Giga Texas for granted, not to mention Giga Shanghai and Giga Berlin. But if we do the thing that I like to do from time to time, which is pull back to that 10,000 foot view in the sky, those things, the gigafactories, were insane things if you just looked at them in a vacuum without any context and without knowing anything about Tesla. Because Giga Texas is, I believe, either the first or second largest factory in, I can't remember if it's just America or if it's actually the world. Point is, it's huge. And it's building 5,000 units per week of the best-selling car in the world, which is an electric vehicle. And it's also building the, in my opinion, and I don't think any of you would really disagree here, the gutsiest car ever made. I think whether you love or hate the Cybertruck, you'd probably agree that it's the gutsiest vehicle ever. It is packed full of big swings, big risks. No other car company would even consider greenlighting the Cybertruck. It wouldn't even make it to a clay model. It would be seen by middle management or, okay, let's say even upper management on paper, and it would be folded, it would be curled up into a ball or torn up and thrown in the garbage. It would never make it off of a piece of paper. But Tesla is building it, and they're going to build it in volume. All right, my final comment on Elon's 12-minute remarks there is in regards to Optimus, and he talked about a lot of what he feels are reasonable projections for Optimus. Now, it's not for me to say that he's right or wrong about those. What do I know? Who am I to say Elon's right or wrong on this? But what I thought might be worth thinking about as a little thought exercise is this. Let's say Elon's wrong and that Tesla only, and I'm using big ol' air quotes here on the word only sells half as many Optimus robots as he thinks they will. He was suggesting that maybe Tesla has 10% share of a 10 billion humanoid robot market. That would be 1 billion Optimus bots sold for Tesla. So let's say he's off by 50% and it's actually half that. Well, guess what? That's still 500 million Tesla bots, which would still obviously be an incredible boon for the company and for shareholders. Same as how I talk about Tesla's very optimistic 20 million cars made per year goal by 2030 that they laid out back at Battery Day in 2021. Even if they only get halfway there by 2030, it'd still be 10 million cars per year at the end of this decade. So really, unless you think there's just going to be no market whatsoever for a humanoid robot who can do stuff around the house or the yard for you, Optimus is going to be huge for the company. It's just a question of how huge. All right, we're going to move on to his presentation now, where he blew through a slide deck pretty quickly, but there's still a lot to talk about. I'm going to give you the highlights, but first, I need to take a quick pause here and say a quick thank you to my friends at Accelerate Auto and their XCare extended warranty option for EVs. They continue to help bring this podcast to you. So yes, this week's Ride the Lightning is once again brought to you by my friends at Accelerate Auto, who offer that excellent X-Care extended warranty coverage for your car. You can do it however you want. You could match Tesla's extended warranty option, which is 2 years, 25,000 miles. And even if you do that, the X-Care plan still goes beyond Tesla's in that it not only has the same $100 deductible and 24/7 roadside assistance that Tesla's extended warranty plan does, but on top of that, X-Care also offers rental reimbursement and trip interruption coverage. And you can just keep going from there. If you want to go 3 years and 40,000 miles, which is the policy I have, you could do that. You want to go 5 years, 50,000, 10 years, 100,000, you can do all of that. Whatever plan works for you, check them out at accelerateauto.com/xcare. Don't forget to use the discount code LIGHTNING for $100 off of your policy purchase. The website, again, it's spelled funny for, I guess, SEO reasons probably. It's XCELERATEAUTO.com/XCARE. The link to that is always in the episode description as well, if that's easier for you to just go click on that. But accelerateauto.com/xcare. Don't forget the discount code LIGHTNING for $100 off your purchase. Okay, time for the first clip from Elon Musk's presentation. It is about carbon emissions and how Tesla's been doing in that department.
Anyway, as you can see, our impact is accelerating. We're starting to make a real noticeable dent in carbon emissions. So we're really, making a lot of progress towards achieving our goal of sustainability. And one of the effects of autonomy is going to be an even greater effect on carbon emissions, because I suspect that we'll go from passenger cars having about 10 hours of usage per week, about an hour and a half per day, to probably a third of the hours in the week, maybe 50, 55 hours, which means the same car will be used 5 times more often. So you need a certain amount of resources to make the car, but it'll have 5 times the usage, in my opinion. I think that's quite likely, which will be an even more dramatic impact on carbon emissions. So, we care a lot about sustainable manufacturing. Our factories are beautiful. Like, you walk around the factory, it's actually, contrary to these, like, what you read in the press, it's like a good vibe in the factory. Like, people are smiling and happy. It's like, it's nice. So yeah. We do care. We actually do care a lot at Tesla about doing the right thing, and we're not going to be perfect, but we do care a lot about doing the right thing. So our vehicles are water efficient, energy efficient. We try whenever possible to use renewables for powering the factory, and do our best to do the right thing.
Well, this is what I always say, right? My opinion, that Elon himself believes as well for the company, that Tesla more often than not does the right thing. And I think that Tesla walks the talk on that. That's part of a lot of what the impact report was about too. So, all right, next up, let's move right to the next clip. Another interesting nugget on the Cybertruck.
And a lot of people were saying the Cybertruck is like fake, it's never going to come out. Now we're shipping a lot of Cybertrucks. We hit a weekly record of 1,300. And I think that with the Cybertruck, it really is something special. Like, people sometimes have like different opinions on the Cybertruck, but if you really want to know if something is cool, if it's a great product, like, show it to a kid, okay? Like, no filter, okay? The kid's got like no filter, like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, something like that, or even 3-year-old, and say, which car do you like? Cybertruck. So it's like, that's how you know. It's finally something that it just looks like the future. And it drives so well. It's comfortable. It's just a fantastic product. I think it's our best product, and it's a lot of innovation. It's got a 48 volts low voltage system. Finally, instead of 12 volts, 800 volt drivetrain, the world's biggest castings. It's bulletproof. All the cool things can outpull a F350 diesel, which is a very impressive truck, and it can it can do a quarter mile faster than a Porsche 911 while towing a Porsche 911. So that's insane. So yeah. And if you think about it, like how often do companies make products that move your heart, that are really special? It's so rare, and I think this is one of them.
It's great to hear that Tesla has hit 1,300 Cybertrucks per week since peaking at 1,000 per week right before the Q1 earnings call in April. He's also absolutely right about kids, by the way. As I'm sure all of you that are Tesla owners out there have experienced, whether it's with your own kids, your kids' friends, or neighborhood kids, whatever, kids have always loved Teslas, in my experience. I still have this great memory, just quick anecdote. It was not long after I had gotten my Model 3 in the summer of 2018. And at that point in time, they had really just hit volume production. They weren't everywhere yet. And I remember I was driving my daughter to school, and we were still in the neighborhood. We came up to a stop sign, and there was a mother walking her son, who was probably 5, kindergarten, maybe first grade, across the crosswalk in front of me. And the kid's looking, and the boy, he gives a thumbs up. And that just, it always stuck with me, because now, of course, nobody, at least here in the San Francisco Bay Area, nobody gives a Model 3 a second look at all, because they're just everywhere, which is great. That's the mission. That was the goal, right? But that always stuck with me, and I've since seen plenty of kids, my daughter's friends, and whether it's just the emissions mode in the car, or the light show, or just the screen in the car, whatever it is. You guys know what I'm talking about there. So I'm just totally agreeing with Elon about kids and how they feel about Teslas and how they know that there's something cool. But anyway, kids just, they see the car for what it is with no preconceived notion of what a car is supposed to be. They see the Cybertruck's unique, they see it's different, and it clearly appeals to them. Anyway, back on company business here, some more good news on the Cybertruck production ramp. After the shareholder meeting, Tesla posted a very top-level brief recap thread on the official company X account. And in one of the posts, they said, quote, "Our goal is to ramp production to 2,500 units per week by the end of the year." So in other words, roughly double the peak that they just recently hit. Now, in the grand scheme of things, even that 2,500 per week is only halfway towards their ultimate goal of 5,000 per week, because 5,000 per week is how you get to the 250,000 per year that Elon has repeatedly stated would be the ultimate level of volume production for the Cybertruck. All right, next up, a prediction for the Model Y that 4 years ago would have sounded quite bold, but today sounds rather ho-hum.
And of course, Model Y became the best-selling vehicle globally. And this is something that we predicted. I think I said in 2022, Model Y would be the biggest car in the world by dollar volume sales, and that 2023 it would be the biggest in unit volume, and it was. And again, this year, it will be the best-selling car on Earth. So, yeah.
Well, of course Model Y is going to be number one again this year, because why wouldn't it be? They've added the better value version, in my opinion, in the form of the long-range rear-wheel drive, and they've added a new paint color here in North America just for a little extra spice. The question at this point is how many years the Model Y's reign will last. Will it last until the Model 2.5 reaches high enough volume that it can overtake the Y? That would be my guess. I'm not sure any other vehicle is coming from any other manufacturer that could take it down, unless maybe like the Corolla, Toyota Corolla, which is already the number 2, I believe, that maybe they get a redesign or something, or some sort of renewed interest in that, or not renewed, but additional interest would be the fair way to say that, because it's clearly a very popular car. I don't mean to speak ill of it, but anyway, I don't think the Model Y will be dethroned for quite a little while. All right, next up, an update on the Tesla Semi, and then after that, we'll hear an update on a few other things.
Obviously we've got the Tesla Semi. We're in low volume production of the Tesla Semi, and just last week I approved the plans for volume production of the Tesla Semi. So we're going to make a lot of semi-trucks. We're going to start off with, it's something, I think it'll actually move the needle financially. It's not it's not a small thing. And the thing about commercial vehicles is that companies that use them are super objective. It's not like, it's actually, I mean, obviously we're going to make it have cool style and be an awesome car. But for commercial vehicles, the companies that make the buying decisions, they just look at it and say, like, what are the numbers? Like, is this cost less to transport or cost more to transport than say, a diesel truck? And the thing is that the economics are much better than a diesel truck. It's kind of basically a no-brainer. If you're a transport company, you don't use the Tesla electric Semi, you're just losing money. Why would you do that? Do you not like money? Okay. But if you do like money, then I recommend using the Tesla Semi. And so I think this is really going to actually sell at a scale that people will be surprised at, and will actually move the needle financially and do a lot of good. Also for CO2 and sustainability, because semis are driven all the time. Actually, even at much smaller numbers, they have a very big effect on total carbon emissions solved.
So he said they're going to build them in numbers that will surprise people. I wonder how long the reservation list is for the Tesla Semi right now. There were a healthy number of publicly known orders from companies back in 2017 and into early 2018 after the original unveiling. But what is this list looking like now, I wonder? Sounds like Tesla's quite confident they'll be able to build a whole lot of them per year, enough to make a meaningful impact to the bottom line for a company that makes its money selling very high volume cars. Now, granted, the profit margins will no doubt be quite substantial on the Tesla Semi, since they cost $200,000+ a piece, but still, I look forward to seeing these semi-trucks everywhere. I still have not seen one out in the wild. I've only seen them at Tesla events, or the one that was parked outside at the Peterson Museum when they had the Tesla exhibit there. So soon, I'm sure, soon. Next up, the next clip I have for you, the most interesting slide of the deck, for me anyway, showed Tesla's car lineup with something more. Well, specifically, a few more somethings. Take a listen to this.
So obviously we've got some new products that we're working on under the covers, and I think these are I think these are going to be pretty special. So Some of them, I think people maybe at first may think, oh, it's not going to be that amazing, but just wait. It will be.
So the slide shows the S, the 3, the X, the Y, and the Cybertruck all uncovered, and then it has 3 other cars on it under covers. 2 of them are clearly cars, not trucks or anything else. And in fact, they look like the same generic image, while the other vehicle under a cover is much taller and appears to be a van. So could this be an electric Sprinter van, the Model 2.5, and the Roadster? Or a Sprinter van, the Model 2.5, and the Cybercab? Remember that the Cybercab unveiling isn't too far away as we sit here now. We are less than 2 months out from that August 8th event. Next up, let's talk future Autopilot hardware, the next edition of the FSD computer.
And it's also worth noting that Tesla is actually pretty good at chip design. So the AI inference chip that was designed by Tesla that's in cars, we had sort of our Hardware 3 AI inference cars made over the past year have the Hardware 4. We've just completed design on Hardware 5, which we're now calling AI 5, because it's really is. There still actually is not a chip from NVIDIA or from, and I have a lot of respect for NVIDIA, from any company that we would prefer to put in our car that is better than what we have in the car. So we started from scratch in chip design, just as we started from scratch in AI software, and have the best real-world AI software and the best AI inference chip in the world from nothing. So this is a big deal. And the capability of the chips in the car is dramatic. Right now, all the cars are actually training. We have Hardware 4 run Hardware 3 in emulation mode. So we'll continue to make significant progress on Hardware 3, but later this year we'll actually bifurcate, continue working on Hardware 3, on training on Hardware 3, but then do separate training on Hardware 4. That'll be the sort of training cluster that we're building at the south side of the Gigafactory. And that'll be dedicated Hardware 4 video and inference. So the Hardware 4 has cameras that have about 4 or 5 times better resolution, and depending on how you count the sort of Hardware 4, it's about anywhere from 3 to 8 times better than Hardware 3. But everything you're seeing thus far is just Hardware 3, and we still have a long way to go before we reach the limits of Hardware 3. So Hardware 3, I think, will do amazing things, but Hardware 4, I think, will probably do about 5 times better. Then Hardware 5, which comes out in about 18 months or so, is 10 times more capable than Hardware 4. It's like sort of, if you know NVIDIA hardware, it's sort of a B200 class computer. That's like this. So what we'll just progressively do is improve how many nines of reliability the car gets, and then of course that will go into Optimus as well. So the same chip will go into Hardware 4 will go into is an Optimus. Hardware 5, AI 5, which we're calling switching from Hardware 5 to AI 5, will be in Optimus and in all cars in about 18 months. And it's really just a staggering amount of compute, and it's very power efficient compute. So it's got to be, because if you're in a mobile application like a humanoid robot or a car, you can't just be sucking down 10 kilowatts, like you can in a data center. So you've got to be very power efficient. So the sort of Hardware 3 and 4 are only a few hundred watts. Yeah, this is hard. Now, hardware 5 will be able to go probably up to about 700 or 800 watts, but it'll power fluctuate contingent upon the complexity of the scene that it is in. So if it is in a parking lot stationary, it's like you don't have to think very much. Just like a person. Like if you're in a complicated traffic scenario, you've got to think a lot more than if you're just cruising along, on an empty road.
So Hardware 5, or AI 5, will be in cars in about 18 months, or roughly the start of calendar 2026, which would time out very well for the 2026 model year, presuming that those cars roll out in the usual November, December of 2025. Although Tesla's never, at least so far, tied the deployment of new Autopilot hardware to model years. They don't really tie much of anything to model years, so certainly don't quote me on that, but I don't think we've ever had numbers for context regarding how much better Hardware 4 is than Hardware 3, and then how much better AI 5 will be than Hardware 4. I can't wait until they start taking full advantage of Hardware 4, and I say that I don't even own a Hardware 4 car yet, but I still want to see it happen. I want to know what Hardware 4 is capable of and how much better it might perform to the end user. Like, I'm sure it's going to be doing all sorts more calculations and stuff under the hood, but in terms of the actual user experience, will it be tangibly better in a Hardware 4 car once Tesla starts fully utilizing the Hardware 4 cameras and setup? All right, let's move now to the shareholder Q&A. There were a couple of fantastic questions. Sadly, for me, nobody asked about the Roadster this year like they did last year, so maybe next year. But I already played you the big news from the Q&A, which was, of course, about the regular price general production Cybertruck. I did that at the top of the podcast. So I will start here with an answer to a question about whether or not Tesla might ever offer a discounted software bundle if, say, you subscribe to FSD and premium connectivity. Might Tesla ever give you a break for buying both? Would there be a discounted bundle there? But Elon pivoted the answer to something I thought maybe was even more interesting than the answer to that question. Take a listen.
I think we definitely want to encourage people to try FSD. And one of the things that I think probably makes sense is that when we have a significant improvement, every time we have a significant improvement in FSD, give all customers a 2-week free trial. So like, hey, we've made an improvement to FSD, try it for another 2 weeks. With 12.4, we finally get rid of the steering wheel nag, which I know is driving people crazy. Thank heaven for small mercies. Even just something like that, not having the steering wheel nag, and obviously having a far lower intervention count, far more miles between interventions. So I think keep sort of offering people free trials of FSD every time we make a significant improvement.
Well, that makes sense, right? It costs Tesla pretty much nothing to let people try it out, and it can only lead to a higher take rate on FSD. So hopefully that means there will be at least one more free trial this year, if not two, even if they're now going to be 14-day trials instead of 1-month trials. Also, I'm reminded here, remember when Elon laid out the timeline for the next couple versions of FSD, and that the Cybertruck was going to get FSD with version 12.5? Well, given that 12.4 has only just started to get out in a limited way, I don't have it yet, I haven't read a ton of people that have it, and we're already in mid-June, seems like 12.5 is probably not going to make the June timeframe that Elon mentioned. Now, he did caveat it and say they were aiming for that, and I had said on the podcast that I thought, well, maybe that's tied to recognizing FSD revenue from the Foundation Series Cybertruck buyers, and it may still be, but it certainly does not look like that Tesla is going to sneak that in version 12.5 for the Cybertruck FSD. That is not going to get snuck in here before the end of Q2. Anyway, just a random related thought. Next up, the next question was about whether or not Tesla might bring back the referral program and if Tesla would do a van.
I'll add that to my list. So the referral program, I think we'll re-examine the referral program probably next quarter, it is very important to sort of look at what is the fully considered cost of a Tesla. So if with the referral program, it effectively increases the price of the car. So, is the price increase, what is better for the end customer? A slight price increase because of the referral program or not? But I think we'll re-examine that, I think, in next quarter and see if it makes sense. I think some kind of referral program does make sense. But I think for a lot of people, by far the biggest thing we see is that people just can't afford the car. That's the biggest thing. That's the limiter on demand. You can imagine in the limit if there was, say, an 18, if Model Y cost less than $20,000, it would sell probably 5 million units. It would be insane. So now that's not feasible, today, but I think working on figuring out ways to make more affordable vehicles is really the game changer. For most people, it is really not a question of whether they want a Tesla. They do want a Tesla. They simply do not have enough money to afford one. So we have to make it affordable. That's essential.
I admit I never really thought about the referral program costing Tesla money in its current iteration, but I guess in a way it does, even if not every car is bought with a referral. Still, it does make sense, and I'm glad that Tesla will at least consider reviving it in some form. And I don't know if that was just Elon being nice in front of shareholders and saying, yeah, we'll consider it. I mean, he didn't say, yes, we will bring back the referral program, but I do take him at his word that they will sit down and consider a revival in some way, shape, or form of that referral program. All right, the next question was probably the second best one of the meeting in terms of information that will make us all happy. Take a listen to this.
It is pretty complex for us to do this. It sort of it adds a fair bit of complexity to the sales process. Yeah, and it is tough because we've got to earn revenue somehow. So, transfer is tough. But we sorry? One more quarter. Okay, one more quarter. All right. You got it. One more quarter. All right. So, all right.
That was, as you probably surmised, about FSD transfer. The question was, there was a gentleman advocating for it to be permanent. Elon clearly still not on board with that yet. Give him time. He's already gone from we will never do FSD transfer to we'll do it one time to it's now been several quarters that they've done it, and he just added another one there. So I'm not giving up hope that FSD transfer could become permanent at some point, or at least maybe, if not permanent, there'd be just a small FSD transfer fee to a new car, like, I don't know, $2,000. If the price stays at $8,000 for FSD, maybe it's okay, $2,000 if you want to move it to a new car. But this, again, as I was talking about earlier, this has always been one of my favorite things about Elon Musk, the Tesla CEO. He will take reasonable customer requests and just immediately act on them. No corporate speak, No huddling with management to do a cost-benefit analysis down to the last cent. If he hears an idea that he likes, he just says yes, and it makes customers happy. So one more quarter should certainly mean Q3, since we're obviously coming up on the end of Q2 here. Plan accordingly if this affects you and your upcoming plans to buy a Tesla. Next up, what about that home HVAC system that Elon has talked about a few times over the years? What's going on with that?
Yeah, in the list of things that would be like more useful than, or like it would be nice to do, would be a great HVAC system that is very power efficient, has like a built-in HEPA filter, and like take a lot of the things that we've learned in the car and apply that to home HVAC. Because I actually, maybe there is a great home HVAC system out there, but I haven't found it, which is pretty wild. And just building in the filtration system and being able to sort of maybe also control humidity somewhat, and like I said, be super efficient and quiet, which are all things that we do in the car. That would be a pretty sweet thing to do. Maybe we can combine that with the Powerwall or something. On the list of things to do, that is not super high, but it would be cool to do that one day.
It sounds like if the HVAC thing happens, it's not going to be in at least the next few years. It's probably more of a 5 to 10 years away kind of thing. At least that's what I took away from it. I do genuinely think that Tesla could make a fantastic home HVAC system, though, for all the reasons that Elon mentioned. All right, next up. What would happen if the Cybercab needed an intervention, but it had no inputs?
Yeah, so clearly we want to make sure that if there's no driver in the car, the probability of a severe intervention is extremely low. We want to make sure that the car is extremely cautious around vulnerable road users like cyclists or pedestrians. So really, we'd want the probability of hurting as a pedestrian or cyclist to be incredibly low, like way lower than someone driving a car. Now, then there are interventions that happen where the car is simply gets stuck down a one-way street with a crazy construction situation. But in which case it'll basically phone home and say, "Help! I'm stuck." And then I think we can probably solve a lot of these things just by remoting into the car and kind of like steering it like a giant RC car. That's what I'm guessing. That's what I think we'll do.
That makes sense. I mean, this is similar to what the Waymos and the Cruises do now here in San Francisco if one of their cars gets into a pickle that it can't escape. A human comes and gets it in those cases. Tesla could use the cameras on the car to remotely pilot it manually until it's out of trouble, right? Makes sense. Next up, and this is, by the way, the final clip. It's been a long one here. Last clip, one more Cybertruck question to close us out about whether it might be sold globally after all, since Tesla's been taking it on tour around the world for a vehicle that they have previously said would only be for North America. Take a listen.
I think probably, we might be able to certify it for other markets sometime next year. But for sure this year, it's just North America. We did design the car to North American requirements because if you start going with the superset of all international requirements, it forces a lot of constraints on Cybertruck that would make the product frankly worse. So I think we'll need to make a special version that is, for example, China compliant or Europe compliant. But it really doesn't make sense to add that complexity until we've achieved higher volume production on the Cybertruck. There's still a lot of work to do on cost down for the Cybertruck. I generally would say the level of difficulty going from, say, prototype, you go from prototype to production, it's 100 times harder to go from prototype to production is 100 times harder. And then once you reach production, to improve the price by 20%, like or the cost of goods by 20%, is harder than reaching production in the first place. Like, it's mega pain. It's like, and to be frank, it's not the funnest job in the world. Like chiseling pennies is not, it's like washing the dishes, frankly. Like wash a lot of dishes here. Like, it's super fun to make prototypes. That's really fun, and it's kind of cool to get, it's pretty cool to get the production going. Then the cost grind is a grind. That is like, it's hard work. There's some reward to it. Like, there's sort of a reward to washing the dishes, I guess. You have clean dishes. But that is a tough. So that's real hard work.
I just have to say that there's been a really big reception. Like, I have friends that message me and said they love the Cybertruck design, and it's definitely a head turner. So. Oh
yeah, I think from a demand standpoint, we would have plenty of demand in other parts of the world for Cybertruck, no question. Like, wherever it goes, anywhere in the world, it gets a massive crowd. So it's not a demand thing. It's really, we've got to reach volume production, go through the it would be difficult for me to overstate the difficulty in the cost grind. It's really intense. And then we've got to recertify the car, which includes making some design changes to be compliant in other markets.
Well, this is a bit of a reversal, I think. I mean, it had seemed like the idea of selling the Cybertruck globally was off the table. I mean, you could look at it optimistically, like there's clearly so much demand for this thing that it's worth it to do the work that needs to be done to get it certified and approved for the roads in other countries. Or you could look at it a little more pessimistically, like, well, Tesla needs to be building 250,000 of them per year at Giga Texas, and if they're not going to be able to sustain that level of demand with the North American market, then they can look outside of that in order to do so. Time will tell which one it is, but regardless, this is no doubt very good and very welcome news for those of you who live outside of North America who want a Cybertruck, and I am specifically looking at you, my Australian friends. I know I've got a lot of Australian listeners out there, and there's a lot of interest in the Cybertruck from Australia. I know a lot of you want that bad boy, and it seems that in time, you shall probably have it. Well, there you go. That is my recap, analysis, highlights, etc. from Tesla's 2024 annual shareholder meeting. Hope you found that interesting. Hope you found it informative. I'm not done with this episode yet, though. Stick around. I'll be right back with your pro tip of the week and a bit more.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
As I check where I am here, I'm already over an hour and 20 minutes, and in the interest of being respectful of your time, I'm going to skip the Ride the Lightning hotline phone calls this week, but I promise you I will get back to them next week. So if you want to call in and have a chance to be featured here on the podcast, something that you heard from the shareholder meeting that you want to comment on, something you heard me comment on that you want to comment on, or if you've got a Tesla question, etc., you can send it my way in one of two easy ways. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record your question, and please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many callers each week as possible, and just email that file to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same 90-second or less question and call in and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's super easy. There are there's one way to call, one number to call for that, I should say, and it's 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. So I will get back to your phone calls on next week's podcast. What's going on with me in my life? Well, I want to share some good news with you. I just got the word that Zelina, the canine companion service dog puppy that we were the puppy raisers for, and we turned her in. We said goodbye to her in February. Yeah, gosh, wow, it's already been 4 months. Back back in February, and she's been undergoing professional training on a daily basis, living up there at the campus, the main headquarters of Canine Companions, with the effort of trying to become a service dog, graduate as a full-blown service dog. Well, I've just gotten the word that she is doing just that. So she will be graduating. The when is not quite set in stone. How can I explain this quickly? She's going into what's called team training, where they have a list of clients, people that need service dogs, and when it's, I guess, their turn, or however it works with the order of that, they bring a group of folks out to their campus in Santa Rosa, California, here in the north of me in San Francisco, and they do their best to match those people up with the right dog, and based on how that dog's been training and what that dog's skills are. So most of the time, there's a match. Sometimes if there isn't, then the dog will just go back into training for a couple more months, and on the next opportunity, when the next group of clients comes in, then the dog almost certainly, like, there will be a match. So don't know exactly when. It might be next month. That's the soonest option. So we're really happy. It's, again, selfishly, it's a little sad just in that we won't see her again. But this is what she was literally. I know the word literally gets just abused, and it gets very misused and overused. But this is literally what she was born for, was to become a service dog, to help somebody out there lead a more independent life. So there is a ceremony that my family and I would be invited to, where we'd get to meet the graduate, meet the client, the person that Zelina's going to spend the rest of her life with, and get to share a meal with that person, get to know them, spend some time with Zelina. And then there's a ceremony after that same day, where I would then get to ceremonially hand over Zelina's leash one last time. And I almost couldn't even get through that without getting a little emotional. And I'm sure it will be a very emotional day, but it's we're going to miss that dog. We already do, obviously, but it's awesome. It's awesome that she is going to do this, that she's going to fulfill her purpose in life. So again, they're not paying me to say anything, obviously, but if that sounds like something that you and your family might be interested in doing to try and help somebody out, they're nationwide. You could be a puppy raiser from anywhere in America. So you can go to their website to learn more, or just email me, teslapodcast@gmail.com. I'll answer any question you might have. But their website is canine.org, canine.org. Entertainment recommendation time. It just came back, and I love this show so much, but it is so not for kids in any way, shape, or form. It is very much adults only. Be warned. That show is The Boys, and it's on Prime Video. It is a superhero. It's a very dark, very violent, very profane superhero show, but it's really entertaining. The characters are really good, and the actors in it are all really good. The penultimate season 4 has just started. They're going to end it with season 5, but that's just teed up. I watched the first episode of season 4 last night. I'll watch the second one tonight when I go to bed after I finish this podcast. But anyway, parental advisory on that one. But if you are a grown-up and you're interested in a dark, violent superhero show, it is definitely highly recommended. Time for your Tesla Pro Tip of the Week. It comes from Pat in Austin.
Ryan, it's Pat in Austin. As always, appreciate the podcast. This was a pro tip for me. I found out by accident. I was using full self-driving in my 2019 Model X, and it has the stalks. And I noticed when I turned the knob that would typically change following distance, it popped up the minimize lane change dialog box on the screen. That's pretty important because it's hard to get to that option if you want to minimize lane changes at each ride. So if you're in full self-driving, you spin that knob a little bit, it'll be displayed on the screen, and it's a pretty easy change from there. Okay, enjoy the podcast. Thanks again.
That is definitely a useful one for legacy S and X owners, Pat, since getting to that shortcut is different than it is on the 3s and the Ys. So thank you so much for calling in with that. I welcome and encourage any of you who have a good pro tip of the week that we could all expand our Tesla knowledge base with to call in and share it. To do that, just call in either of the 2 easy ways that I talked about a few minutes ago for the regular Ride the Lightning hotline. Okay, before I get out of here, I know this has been a long one, but the Tesla event shows typically are a little longer than normal. I want to mention some friends of Ride the Lightning that hopefully can be useful to you sooner or later. Starting with AbstractOcean.com, they sell a million different awesome aftermarket Tesla accessories, from various interior lighting kits to the screen protector being one of their top sellers, the custom fit screen protector for any of the Teslas that uses the same stuff that Gorilla Glass uses. So check them out. Just go to abstractocean.com, click on whichever Tesla you own. It'll filter the page by all the stuff available for your car. Anything you like, throw it in your online shopping cart, and when you get to checkout, use the coupon code RTL Podcast to get 15% off of your first order. That's RTL Podcast, all one word, no spaces. The Snap Plate and the newer Snap Plate Plus available for S, X, 3, and Y. Get yours at everyamp.com/RTL and use the coupon code RTL for a nice little discount there. This is the front license plate bracket that I recommend if you either want or legally are required to have a front license plate on your car. Don't use the one that Tesla gives you with your car because it sticks to the front quite literally with an automotive adhesive that if you ever want to take it off, it's going to leave some awful residue behind and your car's not going to look right. You don't want to scratch it trying to get the residue off. So just do yourself a favor. Get the Snap Plate or the stronger Snap Plate Plus, again, at everyamp.com/RTL and use the coupon code RTL for a discount. BudgetSafeSolar.com. We are nearing the peak. Hold on, where's my phone? Oh, here we go. We're nearing the summer solstice, and I believe it was yesterday that I have my high for the year so far. Hold on, where was that? Today, oh, nice. Today, 41.6 kilowatt hours out of my little 8 kilowatt system. Just having a little small, narrow home here in San Francisco. 41.6 kilowatt hours today as, there's a couple minutes of daylight left at this point. And 42.4 kilowatt hours on Wednesday. I went back and looked, and last year, sure enough, my high for the year did happen, I think it was the day before the solstice. So we're in the sweet spot with the Budget Safe Solar right now. If you're considering solar, I urge you to consider Budget Safe Solar. I'm not saying they're the best. You should definitely get them. I'm saying cross-shop them. Check Tesla, check Budget Safe Solar, check 1 or 2 or 3 others. This is a big purchase, solar. You want to make sure that you're doing the thing that's going to work best for you, whichever provider is going to be best for you. Budget Safe Solar worked out great for me, and they do offer home battery storage, including the Tesla Powerwall. My brother-in-law has his panels are on the roof. He's got 2 Powerwalls on the side of his house because his house is much bigger than mine. And he's just waiting for the utility company to give the sign off, which should be any day now, honestly. So if you're considering solar and you end up going with Budget Safe Solar, which again, check them out, budgetsafesolar.com, just make sure that you kindly use the referral code RTL. Immaculate Reflections. If you are in or going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area with a car that you love, whether it's your Tesla or another car in your garage, you can treat your car to a spa day at Immaculate Reflections. Whether you want to do paint protection film on the key areas of the car, like the front and the rockers, or the whole car, or whatever you want to do there, paint protection film. Maybe you want to do paint correction get the finish looking as great as it possibly can. Maybe you want to do ceramic coating that'll last 3 to 5 or really 5+ years of then not having to wax your car, because that's what ceramic coating does. It is making that surface nice and slick and protecting that paint finish underneath from those harmful UV rays from the sun. All of that stuff, all of those services you can get done at Immaculate Reflections, and I promise you, you will leave happy. That is a guarantee. Also, there is a nice little Ride the Lightning listener discount if you do book in any of those services with Immaculate Reflections. Reach out via the website, go to irdetailing.com, and when you reach out through there, just mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener, and any service that you book will have that discount applied. So thank you to Jeff at Immaculate Reflections for continuing to very generously offer a discount to my audience. I mentioned the Patreon earlier in the show. I'll mention it one more time here, as I have now crossed 8 years on Patreon, coming up on 9 years of the podcast here very shortly. The Patreon is the way that this podcast is able to continue to happen every single week. I'm so grateful to all of you who voluntarily choose to support me on Patreon, because the podcast, to be perfectly clear, it will always be free, and it will always come out on Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, which I have 463 receipts to show you on that, which, I'm pretty proud of that. And I'm also very grateful that I've never been sick enough to have to miss a podcast. I better knock on wood. I don't want to jinx anything on that. But the Patreon is the way that you can choose to give back to the podcast if you feel so inclined. And perhaps after this episode, this was quite the sprint this week. Normally, I work on the podcast a little bit each night, maybe 1 or 2 hours or more. I guess it depends on the week, but I work on the podcast after my day job every night, and then I, of course, record it on Fridays, which is a pretty big undertaking because it's the recording, it's the editing, it's the uploading and the publishing, all that stuff. But this week, it was kind of weird because the shareholder meeting was on Thursday, and I really kind of just sat on my hands all week, which felt weird because I was like, oh, it's Wednesday night and I haven't really done anything. And well, no, it all happened in really quick on Thursday. So I had to really dedicate a lot of time to get this thing done on time. And I hope you have enjoyed this week's episode. I feel pretty good about this one. I thought there was a lot of clips to listen to, but again, I filtered out the filler and just trim the fat for you on these things is my goal, and hopefully leave you with some insights as well. Anyway, if you feel so inclined to support me on Patreon, I'd be humbled and grateful if you do that. You can do so at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Patreon is spelled Patreon. And if you are not already following the podcast on your favorite podcast service, statistically, most of you are doing that on Apple Podcasts. You can just search for me there or on any of the podcast services. Just search Ride the Lightning Tesla Podcast. You should find it for sure that way. Click follow. That's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And that means every time there's a new episode, which as all of you know is every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, you'll get a push notification that says new episode available. And you just tap that and you can listen to it without having to remember to go find it yourself. So make sure to go follow the podcast on your favorite podcast service. You can follow me on X and or on Instagram. My username is the same on both. It's DMC_Ryan, nodding back to my DeLorean days, DMC. And you can email me anytime if you like. I can be reached at teslapodcast@gmail.com. And finally, I want to say thank you to the upper tier Patreon backers. These are the extra generous folks that get their name shouted out each week, and they get invited every single month. They have a standing invitation as long as they're pledging on Patreon to join in on the monthly Patreon Zoom Hangout, which we always have a good time at. So I will start with the maximum plaid backers. Big thanks goes out to Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Michael Williams, Will Stedman, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Doug Carey, Adam Lavoie, ContactOneCallCenter.com, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Sean Tisdale, Dustin Hart, Michael Gallo, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Rav, Adam Christie, and Damon Klein. Next up, the Roadster in Space tier backers. They get a one-on-one hangout with me each month if they elect to choose it, and I'm looking forward to chatting tomorrow as I record this with Tesla Hitchhiker 42. We always have a good time chatting all things Tesla. Thank you to the Roadster in Space tier backers, Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Kara Weston, Robert from near Philly, Kristen Rumble, American Home Contractors, and GetAmber.com. Finally, I'm not sure if the boxer snoring is being picked up on mic, but there's some serious daisy snoring going on the couch over there. Anyway, big thanks as well to the grandfathered in plaid level supporters. They are George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Dennis Peak. It's very distracting. She is snoring so loud. I don't know if any of that's coming through on mic. It's really funny. Oh my goodness. I wish the mic could reach over there so I could just put it on mic, but it does not. Anyway, I don't even know where the heck I left off. Dennis Peak, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, Not Elon Musk, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. Oh, and I'm reminded now, I got to start mentioning this at the top of the podcast and sort of really lock in the details, but the Ride the Lightning listener meetup is going to happen at the Tesla Takeover event coming up in the last weekend of July. And the listener meetup, the full schedule got released for the event. Franz von Holzhausen is one of the keynote speakers, which is awesome. I'm hosting 2 panels, which I'm looking forward to. And so all of that's on Saturday. So the listener meetup's going to be on Saturday, July 27th. And I think it's going to be right at the end of the event, the end of that day. Then we'll go back over to the hotel, the Madonna Inn right next door, which Victoria Iacovetto and Tesla Hitchhiker 42 have graciously offered to host the group of us that want to meet up there in their room. So we'll just walk right over there. We'll hang out. We'll just, maybe there'll be some drinks over there, and we'll just hang out and have a nice time. So I'm really looking forward to meeting some of you for the first time, seeing some of you again, and yeah, it's going to be good. So that is coming up in about 6 weeks. It's coming up fast. All right, that will do it for an extended episode here of Ride the Lightning, your weekly Tesla unofficial podcast. This was episode 463. For Daisy the Snoring Boxer, I'm Ryan McCaffrey. Happy electric motoring, and I'll see you back here next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.